All right, Larry, what's going on, my man?
Oh, not a whole lot. How about you? Are you staying busy out there?
Oh man, I'm staying busy getting ready for this episode that we're about to do, man. I'm excited about this. It's good
This
stuff.
is yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be pretty exciting. We're going to talk about like all kinds of things related to home, right? Is that what we're doing here?
Oh, is that what you do? Oh crap.
On occasion, every once in a while, I do.
All
we've
right.
we've rehabbed a couple of houses, like complete from studs out remodels, things like
Dang it.
that.
I
Couple
should
things
have
like that.
I should
Got a
have
couple
read.
of rental properties, just stuff like that. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, you're killing all the surprises. All right. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Well, let me go ahead and do the intro, and then we'll go ahead and get in it. All
All
right.
right.
Here we go. All right. Last name's Towner, first name's Larry. Started as a lad, heavy buckets he would carry, water in the ground, feeding livestock all around. Respected work ethic is what he has now. Started up a business, stacking up his riches with houses that he's lived in, sweating while he's flipping, building a portfolio with his own two hands. It's tool time, baby, and he is that man to teach you how to save time, money, and stress. The DIY guy that keeps you out of a mess. He's the Handyman Pro with the radio show, with a library of content. Count up the episodes. He's dropping plenty knowledge that you need to know. So without further ado, Larry Towner, let's go.
Man, that is awesome. Like that is great. We're gonna have to take this recording. We're gonna put that on our show. I'm telling you. That I
Oh
like
man.
that. That's
Yes, sir.
that's like that's on the money. That is on the money.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Wow.
sir. I did some digging. Did some digging.
Yeah,
Found,
I see that.
yeah. Found the farm life was the life you knew, and yeah, the rest is history. So
Yeah, Green Acres is the place for me. That probably doesn't mean anything. Probably doesn't mean anything to you, but older people
yes,
will understand.
yeah, yeah. I like the reference. I like the reference. Cool, cool. So Larry, we know each other in person, although we're not in person.
Correct.
Spoiler
Yep.
alert. I've gleaned a lot of knowledge from your wisdom, just regarding money and other things of that nature. Now we're gonna dig deep and we're gonna talk about house stuff, and just being a house renter, owner, all of those things. But I want to know. I want to know.
Uh-oh.
Um,
Inquiring minds want to know. That's what he says, right? Yeah.
I want to know about an epic fail that you've had. Uh, Early, recent, I don't care. I just want to know. So all of us mortals will be like, oh, even him. Okay, cool. So
So I'm going to tell a roofing story because, and I generally don't do roofs, but it's a long story. I was working on a roof on a dock, actually, on a
mhm.
lake. So I'm up on top of this roof. I'm having a great time watching the water, all of this stuff. Uh, the the roof actually broke. Old LT here went straight down and had a cordless drill in my hand that went a flying. Landed in the drink somewhere. I'll tell this to the finish of the story. Did not end up in the water. Did not hurt myself. I landed upside down on my shoulders on the dock, which was actually amazing. I could have been very seriously hurt, but got up, shook it off. I was like, "Whoa!" Then I'm like, "Where's my drill?" And my drill was gone. Didn't know where it was. Think I lost it. Client the next day actually took a big magnet and fished it out of the lake, and it still works. So that's the big win. It still works. Battery
oh
was
my.
toast. Battery was toast, but that's okay, right? The rest of it was cool. So I was
Okay.
just like so yeah. So epic fail. Check your roofing. Make sure it's like will support your weight, and don't throw your battery packs into the lake. That's the, those are the two
Okay.
lessons there.
Wow. Okay. Just in the you just what would you rate your landing?
Yeah, I think there were people over there going, 3.5, 3 1/6. Effort, E for effort. We'll give you an E.
Oh
We'll
my
give you a
gosh.
3E. Actually, really,
Oh.
seriously, I was really very pleased I didn't get hurt because I could have been really hurt.
Oh
But
yeah,
anyway,
that sounds. Oh man, you know what though? There was nobody filming, I imagine, right?
I hope not.
that
I hope
would
not.
that would be all over social media right now.
Yeah,
Is what would happen.
It would. Yeah, it would. It would. This happened a couple of years ago, but still, there were people around with cameras, but nobody was shooting pictures.
Oh
Thank
my
God. It
goodness.
happened so fast. I got to tell you, it happened so fast. I didn't even realize it. And I only fell about, I'm going to say about 8 feet. So fortunately, it wasn't a really high fall, or anything like that. But boy, it caught me by surprise. It
Sure.
really caught me by surprise. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's part of
Yeah.
the reason we don't do roofs anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the reasons. So
Yeah. It's yeah. Now I'm afraid to go up on my roof, and I'm just like, oh.
no. You're young. You're
Oh yeah.
fine.
When
You're good.
you're young, your bones don't break. Is that how that works? You're
Well, you
young.
do. You bounce a little better. I'm going to tell you. You're also more flexible. So between
Okay.
the two things, it's very helpful. So
These are facts. These are facts. All right. So I touched on many things that you do, and you just told us one of them. You are okay. So, side note, I was looking at your website, and like I looked at the deck, and I was like, "That's a pretty awesome deck." Do you? I feel like that's beyond handyman work. So, how do you categorize yourself? Because I mean, it says handyman, but it's also like, dude, I made this deck. How about that?
well, so it's funny that you ask that because how do we want to say this? I have effectively built houses almost from the ground out. I mean, I can do the foundation work and all of that, and I know what to do. I just choose not to, mostly for
Sure.
I don't really want to get permits and do all that kind of stuff. So I have a lot of, like, literally, as you found out, I grew up on a farm, and I've been doing this kind of stuff for really my whole life. And I just, I know how to do a lot of things. And when it gets into doing things like that, like some of the deck, I don't do deck work for money, just so you know, because
Sure.
it was more a cost savings thing for me, because guess what? It's very expensive to put a deck up. So when I have the ability to do some things myself, I do them. And then there's other things I just don't do, because like roofs, I don't do roofs anymore because I don't want to fall off, but also they're too high. Mostly it's more that than anything else. It's a young man's game. Younger man's game, not an old guy's game. So, but yeah, so I really kind of consider myself a contractor to a degree, but I like to do handyman jobs. My business card says solution specialist. And the reason it says solution specialist is I tend to get a lot of calls when the other people can't figure it out. They're like, well, I don't know what to do, or somebody's got a whole long list of things that they want done, and they just really want to deal with one person. And probably that's my biggest single job source. We just call them to-do lists. And, what do you need done? You need a faucet put in, a toilet set. You need a light electrical done. You need, you want some carpentry done. You need a bookshelf hung, or you need pictures hung, or whatever. I mean, I can do all of that stuff. I have all the tools. I know how to do it all. I've done lots of different things. So I have a pretty broad base of knowledge. So.
Got it. Okay. That explains it all. Very good. Very good. And okay, so I got a sidetrack, but what I wanted to ask you is, you are a landlord.
Yes.
You have renters. Not all renters are created equally, is what I've been told by people who are landlords. And so, like, what is important to get your landlord to just love you and want you to stay forever and ever? Amen.
So I want to take one step a little bit back from what you just said. You said all tenants are not the same, which is true, but I will also tell you that not all landlords are the same either. So if in fact you are going out and you want to be a renter and you want to rent a place, I would interview your landlord, find out what their processes are, because there needs to be a fit. In order to really have a good landlord-tenant relationship, there needs to be a good fit. In our case, and I say it's our case because it's my wife and I, for lack of a better word, we want to provide a really good product for our tenants. We want a very carefree, nice home for somebody to live in. And when we do them, because I do the construction side, we put a lot of things into a home that are very maintenance friendly. I don't know how else to put it, but we put fit and fixtures in our properties that are easy to maintain, meaning they're easy to clean, they're easy to keep up. And we also are very, very proactive as well when it comes to dealing with our tenants, because we want to, I hate to sound like a business guy, but I am a business guy. So I want a good customer experience. And I consider my tenants to be customers. I don't really consider them to be tenants. I mean, they're tenants, if that makes sense, but they're a
Sure.
customer as well.
Mhm.
So, understand if a landlord has multiple properties, what kind of properties does he have? Does he have any references? Number one, if you come at a landlord with that, you're going to find out, you're going to get a whole bunch of interesting responses, because some of them are going to be like, what? Like, you're actually you're interviewing me, and I don't care. To me, that shows somebody that probably is going to be responsible and take really good care of their property, or my property in this case, or their property where they actually live. And I think, to answer your question more directly, if you're a tenant and you want to have your landlord love you, the first thing, in my opinion, is just be responsible, right? And that encompasses a lot of different things, but understand that you're staying in somebody's property, and it's not just paying the rent on time, but it's also having a communication back and forth with your landlord. As far as, you don't need to get into huge details, but if something's wrong with a property, tell the landlord. And I'm not saying drive them crazy with, there's a light bulb burned out or things like that, but if there's a leak under the sink, tell the landlord. He really wants to know. Or at least I know I want to know, because I'll get over and fix it. What I don't like is getting surprised, right? Again, it's that communication back and forth. If one of my tenants has an issue, I just expect them to give me a ring, and we'll address it, usually pretty rapidly, because we're pretty proactive about getting stuff repaired, or whatever, getting a solution, basically, because it just depends, and it depends on the circumstances and things. But for example, and this, that we both live in Atlanta, and it's hot here in the summer. And if an air conditioning unit goes down, honestly, we keep a spare at the house, so that at least somebody can have a cool bedroom to sleep in, that now. And again, I think that sets us apart. It's not that, but you have to ask, like, what is an expected turnaround time on those kinds of problems? Because certain things are more important than others, and I'm big. If you listen, we do a podcast also. It's called the Handyman Pros Radio Show. I know you know that, but your listeners don't know that. And our number one thing that we see as handyman is problems with water. I mean, I'm just going to tell you flat out, very, very destructive. And like leaks under the sink, I want to know about them, because I want to get them fixed. Now, I mean, they don't have to be fixed today, but they need to be fixed in short order, meaning within a week or two, because that way the big damage doesn't occur, right? So that's us. That's what we do. But be responsible, and do pay your rent on time. I mean, that's part of being responsible. I would tell you also, really understand your lease. So read your lease. Don't just sign it. Read it. Understand what it says. Understand what is your responsibility. What's the landlord's responsibility? Come to that common ground and ask questions. Just ask questions, because we've rented probably, over the years. I've been doing this since 1995. I'm going to say I probably had several hundred tenants over that period of time. And I get very, very few questions on the lease. Occasionally we'll get some questions. And so it's a pretty complex legal document, right? I mean, that it's a legal document, and technically by law, there's responsibilities legally on both sides. And I'm not trying to be a lawyer or anything like that, but a lot of it's just conversational. Who's responsible for repairing this? Who's responsible for repairing that? And each state has different laws, just so you understand that. But like here in Georgia, the landlord is responsible for all the major systems, which is plumbing, electric, HVAC, roof, siding, stuff like that, the major systems. Past that, the tenant can be responsible for some items. So for example, in my leases, we have a $50 minimum, meaning if it's less than $50 to do a repair, please take care of it yourself, meaning I don't want to come unplug your toilets. You can do that when you go and buy a plunger for $10 and plunge your own toilets, that kind of thing. So it's a document, and just understand it. And not many, some people just sign it, and it makes me nervous. I'm just going to tell you, because you need to understand what's in there, at least to a degree. Spend some time, because ours is 6 pages long, so it's a long document, and that's not uncommon. That's not uncommon. So,
all right.
Is that a good answer?
That is a great answer. It's so great of an answer. It has inspired me. Hey, you got to be responsible. You gotta come through and read your lease. You gotta come through and understand what's inside there. You gotta go to the front, all the way to the back, and I come straight through and tell you don't let things build, especially water, because it might just cause a flood and maybe damage to the whole dang house, and then you won't have nowhere to live, yo.
That's a really good point, actually. Like you really don't even know.
You have
I mean,
nowhere to live.
so now I am going to tell a story. So I had actually before this interview, I got off the phone with one of my clients. He's been a long-term client, and he went on vacation. He had installed a Keurig machine into his plumbing. He plumbed a Keurig machine into his home, and he goes on vacation for 5 days. Well, guess what happened? You already know the rest of this story. That plumbing line broke, and for 5 days it poured water into his newly remodeled home. I don't even know how much it cost him, but it was a boatload, and he could not live in the home for more than 6 months. So
6 months.
6 months. And I thought that was pretty quick. Honestly, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
well, that was pretty fast, Now, insurance picked it up and all that stuff, but still, right? But still, you say you don't have a place to live from water. True. Yeah. Yes, it's true. So it's true.
Water and fire, man. I tell you what, those two things. Woof.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. So regarding being a tenant, and I love the fact that you said interview your landlord, because it's a thing that people don't think. It's like people go for job interviews and they're like, no, yeah, bro, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
There has to be a good match, pretty good match. So
yeah. It's like a online dating situation. I'm just kidding. But anyways. All right. So what are obviously be responsible. What are some things that will cause your landlord to just be like, nope, done. We are not moving forward. Yeah.
So yeah, probably, really the biggest thing is just lack of payment is going to be the biggest issue. Obviously that one's the obvious one, but any kind of illegal activities also can be a spur. And I'm not referring to, Delta 8 or anything like that, but more like really illegal activities, like, I don't know, you're cooking meth or, something like that, or you're any other kind of things. I would say one of the other things that happens is just kind of a bit of a disrespect for the property. And again, this gets back to being responsible, but in your agreement, and it depends on the property. We rent single family homes, right? And so we usually have lawns. They're usually not very big, but we do have lawns, and we usually require the tenants to cut the lawns. Well, if somebody takes care of their lawn and they keep their lawn free of debris and stuff like that, I generally know as we do drive-bys pretty regularly.
Like if I drive by, you do a shooting on your.
You do know me, right? Yes.
I know. That's why I'm afraid. I'm like, oh gosh, I got to cut this interview right now.
No. But we do a drive-by inspection. I call them drive-by inspections, and I can tell an awful lot. As I said, I've been doing this a long time. Sure. I can tell a lot by how the property looks just from looking at the lawn. If somebody's got and it doesn't have to be landscape picture perfect, but if the lawn is kept cut, and I drive by every couple of weeks, I drive by and the lawn is just being taken care of, and there isn't trash in the lawn, and the kids' toys aren't all over the place and things like that, I don't even generally need to go in, because if they take care of the outside that well, the inside is usually just as good. And so it's little things like that that will sometimes make a landlord say, this is kind of, they're not taking good care of the property, and usually it's coupled with other things, but it just kind of depends. It depends on the neighborhood and what the house is like and things like that. If you're in an apartment, I will say this, if you're in an apartment, noise where your neighbor's right next through your wall, noise and stuff becomes an issue. It really does become an issue. If I have it, and I don't because I have single family homes, but if I was doing condos or doing apartments and somebody was really loud, it would cause issues. It would cause
Sure.
issues big and on a regular basis. Okay. I mean, everybody's allowed to have a party once in a while. I don't worry about that, but I'm talking about if you're
Mm-hmm.
doing this every Saturday night and you're, whooping it up, it's kind of a big thing. Probably one of the other things that actually in this current real estate market that's been happening is that landlords are actually cashing out also. And that's not something that you as a tenant can control,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of you might want to ask your landlord if he's thinking about cashing out. The reason is you might be able to owner finance that home or that home
Ooh.
from him. Right. So because, and that real estate prices are really well, for a while, they've been at an all-time high and it's just been crazy. And there are a good number of landlords that are effectively trading up and
Sure.
because they can, so it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of one of those things, but it does give you, it actually can turn into a somewhat of a potential opportunity if you like the home and when you wouldn't mind owning it, so
Mm-hmm.
again, it's back to having that conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the big reasons. I mean, most of the
Sure.
time, if you have that good relationship with your landlord where
Mm-hmm.
you pay your rent on time, you do talk to them every once in a while, you report things that actually need it,
Mm-hmm.
where am I going wrong there? Like, why would we try to be very friendly with
Sure.
our customers. Again, we consider them customers, so in that case,
Mm-hmm.
we want them to be happy. We just want them to be happy.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of simple.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's essentially it's just human relationships, right? So,
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And a friend of mine actually, they were renting a house, and the landlord was like, "Oh, we're just an FYI, 60 to 90 days, whatever it is, we're going to put the house on the
Yep.
market." And they were
Yep.
like, "Can we buy the house?" And he was like, "Yes, you can."
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
And
Exactly. Why
yeah,
not? Right.
yeah, and they were cooking meth. So I guess they're cooler than you are because you're out here like no meth, guys. Oh, we gotta
Hey, well,
obey
I
these
did say,
laws.
you could do Delta 8s and Delta 9s and all that stuff, and if it happens
Yeah,
to be in smoke form, I don't care, like
sure,
whatever,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
It's
but
if you're mainline and heroin, it might be a little different, but whatever, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
To each
No,
his own.
indeed, indeed, indeed. So, okay, so we've talked about being a renter, being a good renter,
Yep.
how to, uh, you know, just make sure that you are that person that they want to hang on to. How do you negotiate with your landlord? Can you negotiate with your landlord? Can you offer up a possibly a plasma donation exchange for for reduced
Why
rent?
does
I
it
don't know.
not surprise me that you would ask that? No, anyway, I'm
Ah.
just kidding. Uh, so, how do we say this? It's really a function of the market,
Mm-hmm.
and right now, today, this is 2022. There's really no negotiation right now because there's actually
Sure.
not enough properties to actually rent at this point. Um, as the market goes down, it's really kind of the same thing. If you have a good relationship, if you have the ability to be upfront, and have if you develop that personal bond, you have the ability to negotiate. If you just try to start to negotiate, he's going to say, I've got 14 people right behind you coming in, you know
Mm-hmm.
and in 9 out of 10 times today's world, that's the case. Now, I've been in this long enough that there have been times when there aren't a lot of people coming in,
Sure.
and in those cases, then yeah, you can negotiate. He's going to have a place where he'll say yes or no, and usually it's going to come with some kind of a qualification, meaning like, all right, I'll knock $50 off the rent a month if you pay me by the first, by the first of the
Right.
month, not by the fifth of the month, which is the usual grace period. But
Mm-hmm.
if you pay me by the first of the month, we might do something like that, or something like that, just
Oh,
in those kinds of again, it kind of gets back to that responsibility. Or maybe you could pay me 3 months in advance. I might knock some money off or something like that.
sure.
Unfortunately, today that's not going to work. But when the market gets a little tighter, it gives you opportunities. It's kind of like I said, that's a tough question today in
Sure.
today's market.
Right.
So
And I mean, when I say negotiate, I wasn't just talking about money, but like I was thinking about, I mean,
like
primarily
terms.
money. Yeah, just things like a friend of mine. They were like, "Oh, these floors are this. We love the place. The floors are terrible." And the landlord was like, "How about you sign like I can't remember. It was like an 18 plus month lease or something like that. I mean they're locked in. Like it's like one of those singular cell phone contracts, man. I was just like, whoa, that's a lot of time to be locked in, but that's what they did, and they changed out the floors because of that. So
Yeah. So just a function of dollars and cents, right? I mean, it
mm-hmm.
really is. So turnover is a killer in the rental business, just so you
Sure.
know that, every time you turn a property over, you spend a really a fair amount of money just getting it back to rental ready. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very rarely are they truly rental ready from the time
Sure.
somebody moves out. And if a property does need to be updated, which is what you're talking about, like that kind of thing, yeah, you can there's some negotiation there now. And just to
Mm-hmm.
give you an example, right now we have a really good it's a young couple. They have one of our homes, and we actually want to do some renovations. And so one of the things we gave them actually a choice. We said, would you like us to do this, or this? Would you like us to do, basically
Oh,
it was the
nice.
bathroom or renovate the kitchen? And what
Mm-hmm.
was the third thing? I don't remember. Anyway, there was one other piece in that. And they're like, and we were in the process of taking the rent up, but we're not taking the rent up a huge amount, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
a small amount just to match the market. And we know we needed to do some of these things anyway. So again,
Mm-hmm.
we offered it up, and they're like, yeah, well, it's funny that you say that, because we were really going to ask you if we could renovate the kitchen. And I said, well, I'd rather do the renovations myself. Just it's a
Sure.
long story. I know the quality of work that I do, but they're like, yeah, oh yeah, we'll do that with the kitchen renovation. I was like, great. So we've got it scheduled, and we're gonna put new countertops and do some some updating on some of their stuff in their kitchen. So
All
it
right.
can be done. And again, it gets back to actually interviewing your landlord, because some landlords are going to sit there and say, no, not a chance. I'm not doing that. No, nope, not interested. Nope,
Mm-hmm.
nope. Take it as is, or that's it. Have a nice
Mm-hmm.
day. So
So yeah, no, it makes sense. That's why everybody should have your business card in their pocket and be like, Larry Towner will do it, and then it'd be like, whoa, okay, well,
yeah, well, go
I
rent
didn't,
from him, except he doesn't have any
yeah.
properties available. That's the problem, right?
Well,
You
they
know.
don't need to know that. You can bluff it, man. You can bluff it.
So
But very cool. As a renter, right? I mean, like someone who's a renter, what how should they um how can they use renting to prepare them to become an owner? Because I think a lot of people, most people, want to own a home. I mean, I want to own, uh, you know, possibly the
you want to own most
Georgia
of
Dome.
Atlanta, is what you told
Yeah,
me.
yeah. I'm trying to take over the city and turn it into my own little playground. But no, I'm just kidding.
You want to be a real estate tycoon. I know how you are. I get it.
I mean, I'm
I
totally
get it.
that's so me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
So probably, how do I want to say this? So there's a couple of different facets in home ownership, right? One is a
Mm-hmm.
financial aspect, which there's lots of information on that out there. So I'm not going to go into that too much, but basically your mortgage payment needs to be about a quarter of your gross income. That's
Mm-hmm.
going to give you a very, very, how do I want to say it? It's going to make you not house poor, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you don't want to be house poor. And when I say house poor, if you buy too much house, all you're going to do is stay in that house. And I know that me personally, I don't want to be a slave to my home. I just don't,
Sure.
and I never have been. So the traditional number is 25%. So that's kind of the financial thing. So if you buy if you make, I don't know, I'm just going to use, if you make $100,000 a year, you need to buy a home in and around the $25,000 mark. That's just kind of the traditional numbers. Is that right? No, that's actually not right. It's whatever your take home is. So if you take home $8,000 a month, you can afford about $2,000. That's the real
Got
number,
it.
right?
So we're not talking gross anymore. You're talking take home pay.
Well, actually, it's net. It actually is no, it's gross. Yes, if you make $8,000 a month, you can afford about $2,000 a month,
Okay, cool. All
because
right.
you get some tax write-offs and stuff for your home. So
That's true.
that's what the banks used to tell you, that you
Right,
can
right, right,
afford,
right.
that's what you can afford. So
Mm-hmm.
and I've just found in my experience that actually is a number that really does work, because if you I have gone over that, and I was a slave to the house. I mean, it meant we didn't go out to dinner, we didn't do anything, and it wasn't a whole lot of fun. I mean, honestly. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the financial side. What we stress, what I stress the most is just the maintenance side. And as a renter, I think the biggest thing you have to understand is, you don't call the super because you're in the super shoes. You are the super. So you need to understand what can go wrong with your home.
Sure.
And there's a whole lot of resources out there, one of them being the Handyman Pros radio show. But there's a whole lot of resources out there that you can obtain for free via the internet. There's lots of great things on like Bigger Pockets and things like that. But there's all kinds of different ways that you can just learn about what it is that goes wrong. Like, and I'm going to give you an example. This is a story. So I had a client, and he lived in New York City his whole life and lived in an apartment his whole life. And he moved down here to Atlanta, and he bought a home. And he calls me up and he says, my sink leaks, or my faucet leaks. And so I came in and I said, oh, well, it's really kind of simple. Your faucet's about 15 years old, and it's just at the end of its life cycle. And he literally looked at me and he said, you mean they go bad? I said, yes, they go bad. Like, they actually have a lifespan. And I said, we can repair it, but in this case, you might as well swap it out because A, it's going to cost about the same amount of money from a labor standpoint, and B, you can update your style to a more current style, because a 15-year-old faucet, 15 years old. And it looks like it's 15 years old, and I'm not a style guy, and even I notice it, so that's pretty bad. Sure. So learn some of the things, even in your where you're renting from, if it's a home or even if it's an apartment, it doesn't really matter. Understand about the things that can break, and is there anything you can do to actually fix some of them? Some things you can, some things you can't. Generally most people don't have heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, HVAC is called, don't have HVAC experience. But you need to know that it does have a lifespan, and that lifespan is between 15 and 20 years. And if you're buying a home and it has a 15-year-old HVAC system, you're going to need to replace it pretty soon. So, just have an understanding about that. A good home inspector, if you buy, should be able to tell you a lot of that information as well. But a good handyman can too. Somebody with a lot of skills can just kind of give you a thing. And there's actually there's a study out there by the National Association of Home Builders that gives you the lifespan of all aspects of your home. And I'll give you one that people don't think about. How long does your driveway last? Well, I'll tell you the answer. If it's a concrete driveway, it'll last about 50 years. And you think, oh, well, and I only mention that in that we just replaced the driveway at our house. Our house was built in 1974. So how old was it? 48 years. And it was broken up. It was all broken up. And so we replaced it because it had reached its usable lifespan. So, kind of understand that. And then financially, you want to know that stuff too, because if you're a planner, so folks, if you don't know this, Kim Young and I, we met through a thing called Choose FI, which is all about financial independence. And we're all largely a bunch of planners. We're kind of money nerds, I think. I'm not really, but yeah, I am. I won't lie. Sorry. Yes, I am. But anyway, we like to plan. So I don't like surprises, and I don't like surprises. So I go through that National Association of Home Builders list all the time. And it gives you everything from your dishwasher to your plumbing, your different types of plumbing, to your, believe it or not, your drywall has a life, your studs have a life, everything in your home has a life, your foundation has a life. Now, some things are longer, some things are shorter, blah, 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 and so forth and so on. But understand there's just a lot. There's about 25 major systems in a home. And you don't need to know everything about all of them, but you need to understand, like, what do I need to address with them, Okay. And you've already heard us talk about water, and that's the big one,
Sure.
Keep water out of your house and away from your house. So,
sure.
And that's mostly stuff you can do yourself, believe it or not.
Sure.
Most of the time.
Sure.
So,
all right. Cool.
Is that helpful?
That is helpful. I think I need to speak on that with this. Everything just expires, so you need to pay attention to all the things that you have in your house. A whole lot of systems. 25. You need to call this handy guy. But most of it you can come through and do yourself. Plan your life right so you won't be house poor and you lived inside your house and don't leave. That's not fun. That's not a way to live. And yo, I come through and I give knowledge straight from Larry Towner. 25 years.
Yeah.
Which one was 25 years? I got it mixed up.
Well, 25 years was, let's see.
25 systems.
25 systems. No, you got it right.
20 20,
Yeah, there's about
15 to 20 years
25
for a lot of
systems.
them. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, a lot of things are 15 to 20 years is what it
Yeah,
is.
that's cool.
So,
Okay, cool. We're talking about renting. Renting is important. If you're not a buyer, it's all you can do, right? Let's say you put the hat on and you're like, I am going to be pretend that I own this home, and I am going to try to fix stuff inside of this home, and then I'm going to punch through the drywall because I can't find any good videos. Which is literally like I've
that's not
watched.
true, but keep going.
I will sit here and say I've watched videos where people are just like, dude, what are you talking about? I've seen a lot of those videos where people are, you don't know what you're talking about. And these are like pros saying to these people who are making these videos. And there's a lot of good videos out there, but I feel like it's a lot of hunting and pecking when I'm trying to fix something at my house.
Yeah, it really is. So your question or your idea is, where do you find good videos, and or how do you qualify a contractor to understand if he's really good, right? Or for videos, and trust me, we look at a lot of videos. I mean, I'm not going to say
Sure.
when I go to do, I don't care if it's something I haven't done in a while. Like, for example, you just mentioned drywall is kind of a good one, right? I don't do I mean, I do a fair amount of drywall work, right? But I don't do it every day, and I'm not I'm not a professional drywaller by any means. I do drywall repair mostly. But I'll tell you, the in that example, I want to find a video from a guy who has really done a ton of work. And we actually interviewed on our show a guy named the Drywall Doctor. He lives up in Chicago, and he changed the way I personally do drywall. His tips were unbelievably good. I mean, just really, really good. And I think some of the way that you find the good videos is you find people that address your specific problem in a way that makes sense to you. Sure. And you have to be careful because, like in all things, there are the internet trolls, and it's like, what do they like? Oh, you're not doing it right. And trust me, there's a million different ways to do things. Like there's a million different ways to do things. And one way is not necessarily better than another, but there should be things that resonate with you. Like I when I do like a tile floor, like particularly in a shower, I watch a guy named Star Tile. He's in Atlanta actually, and I've been trying to get him on the show. His videos are absolutely incredibly long because he really talks about
you had me at incredibly long. Thank you.
Yeah, but the thing is it distills out to about 3 or 4 minutes of what you actually need. So you kind of have to kind of scroll through it to where you found what it is that you're actually trying to do. But I can tell because I deal a lot in the trades, but I can tell that he really does know what he's talking about. I'm going to give you an example, and I like him. He's a good, like I say, he's very talented, and he's very knowledgeable. He's actually a good teacher, but I really don't want to see him drive into Lowe's and Home Depot. And he shoots video of that. That's sometimes how he starts his videos. So I'm like, yeah, we're going through that, like just scroll right through it. But when you get down to the tax, the tax meaning when he's showing you actually how to do the job and what it is you need to know, he's right on the money. Because it's just like he taught me. He made this comment, and I've never forgotten it. He said, when you're dealing with in a shower, you have to think like water. And I have used that more times.
That's a Bruce Lee quote.
It's like a Bruce Lee quote, right? Is it a Bruce Lee quote? It could be.
It's like be like water, I think is what
be like water. Yeah, his was be like water, but I think his name's David. But anyway, David at Star Tile, I think it's David. But he said think like water, and I was like, I know that seems like a simple concept, but if you're trying to make something waterproof, think like water. So what does water do? Does it go uphill? No, it goes downhill. Does it go over things or under things? Well, it can do both depending on the pitch and all of that kind of thing. So if you think like water, it's really helpful. And of course, as we say, we do a lot of water intrusion stuff like that and trying to keep water away, but think like water and it keeps it away. And that just goes for top. So that's one way. One of the other things to do is I think you have to look at the number of subscribers that somebody has and some of the comments. So like for myself, we've got 2 or 3 people, depending on what the job is. Like there's a guy out of Canada we listen to a lot, and he's got 40 years in the business, in the remodeling business. And he's a great online teacher. And the way he presents, he's just really, for us as contractors, he's really, really good. And I think that's what you need to do. You need to kind of look and get specific. And then there's different levels. And so I tell you the guy's name, but for most people, he's going to be above your head because if you're a DIYer, you're not, his shows are a little above a DIY kind of bit. But for us as contractors, he's great.
You should rip off his stuff and then put it in layman's terms and be like, hey, I'm just kidding.
I don't want to say we've done that. We've done some shows that are common because they're of common subject, and so we make it a little simpler.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the topics are basically the topics. It's kind of like in the financial independence shows. Basically, it's make more than you spend or spend less than you make. It's kind of, you'll hear that about on every show that you listen to. You better hear it on every show you listen to because it's kind of important. So anyway, with that, content is content. But one thing, if somebody doesn't have a lot of things, or if it looks like they cut corners, don't do them. Don't listen to what they say. I mean, if you just think, oh, that doesn't seem quite right to me, listen to your intuition. Listen to your intuition.
Okay.
So. Yeah, but good videos are critical. And when you find somebody you like, make sure you stick with them, because if they've done you right, they'll continue to do you right. I hope, anyway.
That's right. No, so that's good. Side note, how have y'all done 288 episodes?
How have we done 200?
I looked at that. I was like, ooh,
just like this, right? Just like this. So we record, usually we record 2 episodes every 2 weeks. We record about 2 weeks out. And we just scaled back. We were actually doing 2 episodes a week. We scaled back to 1 episode a week because we both kind of running out of time. Now, honestly, it's the too much time thing. Sure. But gosh, we've been recording since 2019.
19?
2019, yeah. September of 2019 was our first show.
Guess what? With my other podcast, I also have been recording that long.
So that's 50. So that's 52 weeks in a year,
and
that's been 3 years. So that's basically 150, right? Just in basic math. And then we did a lot of 2-week episodes where we did a tip. We just did a tip. So that's why we're at 280. I'm actually having a hard time understanding that it's actually been that long. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I try to make some shorter episodes. I sneezed in the microphone once, and then I was like, "Is that good enough?" And Apple Podcast it wasn't. They were like, "Dude, this is a 4-second episode," and I was like, "Yeah, but I could add pre-roll to it, and then."
Yeah, right. Podcasting is very, very interesting, and video casting, if you want to call it that. It's really, really interesting. And content creation, as you know, is not as simple. We're very fortunate in that we have a lot of content material available. A lot. Just a lot. So we're very, very fortunate in that. And it's tough. It's tough. But having good people on is easy. We've actually started. We're going over some of the subjects we've already gone over now at this point, because we started going through it, and we're like, people can't find it because it's just too long ago. So it's time to do a few repeats, not really repeats, but we're expanding on some topics. So it's just kind of a thing.
You can, and if you're sick a week or something, you can always just rebroadcast. All the best ones do it.
Yeah, I know they do. Knock on wood. We've been very fortunate. We have only had. I don't think we've rebroadcast anything. We did do some synopsis shows. We did a show. We actually did one show about, like the top 5 shows for drywall, or I can't remember what they were, but they were like shows where we just referenced other shows because it just gave people a chance to go back and do some, a little deeper dive in some of the material we've already done instead of going over all the things in the material again. So
those are. Okay, cool. So I will we'll wrap on this. You are doing, let's say a person is doing a DIY project.
Yes.
It is um I find myself um with all the big things I do, and that's not just DIY projects around my house, but that's also like video projects that I've been making recently, and I'm just like, ooh, I wish I thought of that before we met up and everybody's here, and it always works ish, but also not as good as I wanted to. So, what are some things to think about before someone hops up in a DIY?
So there's a whole series of things, and again, because we're planners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I'm actually not a planner by nature at all, just so you know.
well,
But
I didn't know.
I
I actually
try.
did know that, but that's okay. Um, but it's everybody wants to be a planner. It's probably the biggest thing if you're doing a DIY project is there's really very little in the DIY world that is not uh, um, that hasn't been done. Like don't try an original project. And I would tell you for your initial projects, do something that's very small and simple so that you can get it done and behind you with and build some experience. We actually, it's funny that you say this because we did some shows. We did 5 DIY projects that you shouldn't attempt, but today we recorded earlier today we recorded 5 DIY projects that you should attempt because we decided that there's a bunch of things that you should try without, but we qualified that and we said that we kind of equated it down to a not necessarily monetarily, but something that if you absolutely screw it up, you haven't ruined your life for the next 3 weeks, right?
Sure.
So I'll give you one example. This is in tiling. This is tiling, do a backsplash, right? So if you do a backsplash, it's a smaller project. It will allow you, don't go tile your bathroom floor or your shower. Don't start there. Start small. Start with a simple project like a backsplash in this case, and kind of get your feet wet. See if it's something that you, A, like to do, B, are you really going to see some advantage out of it? And that's where you start. And then the second thing that you want to do is have a specific goal and really think it through before you get started. And when I say that, know what you want. What is the outcome, right? Start with the outcome in mind at first.
Sure.
But also for in our world, in the home maintenance world, think about your use case, right? So, and when I say that, what I mean is, do you need electric there? Do you need water there? What are you using it for? Are you using it for, is it critical or is it not critical? What are the use cases? Do you walk by this thing? Do you there's all kinds of things like how do you use it? And really understand how you use it, because if you don't understand how you use it, you'll sit there and go, here's what you'll do. You'll go, why did I do that? Like this is in the way, or this if I had put this here instead of there, I would have been better off. So literally, like for us, and I say, my John, my partner, and my wife as well, when we're doing a project, we literally like we did an ADA bathroom for my mother-in-law. We actually put tape on the floor. We taped out where the bed was going to be, where the sink needed to be. We needed to be able to get a wheelchair around there. So we wanted to make sure we actually literally put it on the floor and did all that kind of thing. So because we needed to understand that use case, like how is this thing going to be used? And as a result of that, that really helps you in your planning, and then your construction can work off of that part of the information. And be mindful of the dollars and cents too. Don't assume that everything is, especially today, material costs have gone through the roof. So don't work with a budgetary, do not watch HGTV largely. There's a couple of shows that are accurate, but most of the time they are not. They do not include labor in most cases. So what you're seeing is the cost of materials, not the cost of labor to put it in. And even they're a little bit optimistic on certain occasions. So, be really careful with the money side too. And again, it's not that money's everything, but the last thing you want to do is go, I think this is going to cost $500 and it costs you $5,000. That's not a good fun thing to have happen, kind of thing. Absolutely. And one last thing on that, give yourself about 3 times more time than you think it's going to take, maybe 4. maybe
Sure.
4 times more, because trust me, it'll take longer than you think. It's
Okay.
just gonna take longer than you think,
Okay.
and all of that kind of stuff. So those are the biggies right there that I think
All
of.
right. Very good. Very good. All right. Cool. Well, I'm gonna end with some signature sauce real quick. Here we go. Your DIYs to try. All right. Here we go. Yo, come through. I'm talking about DIY. It's Larry, the dude that comes through. He's not the cable guy, but he just drops a whole bunch of knowledge for the people right now. You gotta understand, you could do a backsplash. Even if you lack cash, you could come through and just tile in the freaking kitchen. Come through on the microphone. People need to listen. I'm talking about things that you gotta bring a whole bunch of tools, and you gotta lay out everything that you need. You got to think it through, and that's just true. I'm talking about the usage. How are you moving around it? And yo, I just found it, a whole bunch of tape up on the ground, so we can lay it all out and we could just put it down. Yo, I come through and I'm all around my freaking house 3 times a time, maybe even 4. Come straight through, and yo, for sure, I'm talking about things that we need to bring a good attitude and a whole bunch of knowledge and a whole bunch of thinking, and that's how I'm linking. Spit a freestyle, and yo, I'm just bringing rhymes all the time, and that's how I go, coming out the top with the flow, with my guy right here, Handyman Pro, on radios, up in podcasts. His name's Larry Towner, and that's how we do. Come straight through, here to make moves. I spit out the top, and that's how I go. Freestyle flow, act like you know. All right.
I'm always amazed when you do that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's truly a talent, because I know you
Thank
just
you.
make that nonsense up. That's the best part. It's
Yeah,
but it's got some flow, and it's I'm
Yeah.
always amazed. I've watched you
Yeah,
do this. I can't tell you how many times.
yeah.
It's a unique talent. It really is.
No, it's good and fun, and it brings smiles to faces, and that's all that matters to me. So, all right, Larry, it is self promotion time. Let's go.
All right.
Plug it all. Plug it all. Just
Plug it all. All right. If you're in the Atlanta area, we do handyman services mostly on the north side of town. That's hssgi.com. It stands for Handyman Services by Service Group International, but it's hssgi.com. Got a whole list of services and things like that. Handyman Pros Radio Show, where basically we give out all kinds of information on projects for in and around your home, and also if you're thinking about becoming a handyman, also we've got some pretty good shows on the actual ins and outs of being a handyman. So that all happens at handymanprosradioshow.com. We're on all the players, so it's at Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on you name it. I think it's even on Pandora, but I'm not sure about that one. But anyway, all the players for that one. Got about, as you said, about 280 episodes, lots of great information. Our initial goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation in your home maintenance and repair. And so with that, our original goal was to try to make our business smaller. It didn't really work too well. Anyway, be that as it may, there are phone numbers there on those sites too, if you'd like to give us a call. We do all kinds of things. So, and if you need rental information too, I don't have a specific website for that, but if you'd like to discuss the rental business, it's not a problem. Just contact me through one of those 2 sources, and we'll go over if you have some ideas on the rental business. I've been doing it a long time, and I've got, it's not a great system, but it's a system that works. It works in Georgia in particular. Because I know the laws and things here. But anyway, just get a hold of me. I'm out there.
Got it. You are out there. And if they're on a body of water and they see a guy that might look like this guy on the thing, it might be you. And wave and say hello. In the worst cases,
it very well could be. And if you do happen to see a van riding around in the Atlanta area that has an alien standing in the passenger seat, you might be close to Allie N. That is her name, and she stands next to me. She's part of our radio show. We end with the spaceship has landed. Do we look at it or do we take it apart? And she always is with us. So there you go.
There it is. There it is. Yeah, that's I need something like that. I'm gonna get a mannequin I guess. Just the torso though. I don't want to buy the legs. It's just too much money. But anyway.
It's too bulky. It's too hard. Yeah, she's kind of short. My little alien's perfect. So anyway.
Perfect.
Anyway.
All right, Larry. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.